So it's trying right now.
Yeah, I suspect bandwidth's going to become more and more of an issue in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been quite interesting. You've been doing a lot of stuff on the computer, like
a lot of internal stuff with HQ.
Nice.
I've got a advanced nitrox and deco class that was supposed to be teaching this weekend, so we're going to do some of the theory online, and then what I'm thinking about is doing some video stuff for the diving educators group, and then some stuff for myself as well, deco theory, some other bits and pieces, just to keep the profile up, keep the name out there.
Yep, I hear you. All right, so we are Facebook Live at this point in time, but I am trying to find our event to post into it. There we go there. Yeah, the new Facebook thing doesn't let me see how many viewers are on at the exact moment while we're chatting, which was beneficial. Oh, look, it's dropping out again. All right, let's see. I am not recording on this computer. I'm recording in Zoom, but I do not know why Facebook, it looks like it drops in and out. I don't know what it's doing. So we will do the Facebook thing and see if people will join us and hang out with us and what's going on. Introduction, this is Mark Powell. What's your official position with headquarters there, Mark?
That's an interesting one. I don't actually have an official job title with HQ. My job description is just be yourself, which is a pretty easy job description to achieve most of the time. Yeah, it's a combination of primarily working with the dive centers, working with the regions, and also being sort of the bridge between HQ and the rest of the world. So I help out on the marketing and training aspects in the rest of the world, run instructor trainer workshops, and pretty much anything that needs doing.
Nice. And you were where were you just? Egypt?
Yeah, I was in Egypt just before all of this started, running an instructor trainer workshop for our Middle East office over there. So we had 5 or 6 candidates from that region all going through their instructor trainer workshop. It's actually part of a bigger trip. I was doing some rebreather instructor training over there just before the ITW. And then heading up to Dahab to do a Sea Shepherd GhostNet course, before then spending some time with some of the other regional offices in the area, and then ending up in Bahrain for a GhostNet project. Nice. But obviously the second half of the trip got cancelled, so we managed to get the ITW all finished. Some great candidates over there, and then when I saw that they were starting to close the airports, I said, time to cut the trip short and get back home.
Yep. Yeah, we had a friend that landed in England and just got a flight right back and hopped back and just turned right around. It was impressive. So you have 2 books in print, is that correct? 2 books or more?
That's right, yep.
2.
The Deco for Divers was the original book, which is amazingly has been out for about 10 years now. Nice. Which always amazes me that it was that long ago. So that was the first book, and then last year, in fact, it was almost exactly a year ago, I published the second book, Introduction to Technical Diving.
I have been very impressed by that one. I grabbed it. I think it was at DEMA that I grabbed it, and then that's right when we started teaching the foundations course, and it is exactly what we were looking for from the foundations course thing. So if you're planning on taking foundations, you need Mark's book. I will post a link for it, but it is an absolute requirement. So one of my other instructors here at the shop would be very upset with me, Sean, if I didn't ask you if it was, because he's asked me like 7 times and I haven't asked you yet. Is it going to come out as an ebook, the Intro to Tech?
Yes, absolutely. It will be as an ebook. Decode for Divers was available as an ebook, but the I don't know, understand the whole details, but the company that was hosting it, doing the back end stuff, changed their formatting. So we need to do some work to get that back published. And when we do that, Intro to Tech will also be available.
Good. All right.
Especially at the moment, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Time frame at all on that, or is it kind of completely up in the air?
Well, we were looking at imminent within the next couple of weeks before all of this started. So yeah, as soon as possible would be my preference. But yes, we're certainly talking about this year, not next year, and hopefully the middle of this year rather than the end of the end of this year.
Good. Questions I've been asking everybody that we'll go ahead and knock them out right now. What are some of your favorite places to dive? Some of those like bucket list places you've gotten to do so far that you were just amazed by?
Well, there's sort of two answers to that question. There's the bucket list question, which let's deal with that one first. I think there's bucket list destinations that I've already dived, and top of that list is probably going to be the Britannic, the sister ship of the Titanic. It's just such an iconic wreck. The history of it, the challenge of getting there and actually getting permission to dive it, and then the wreck itself. So yeah, the Britannic will always be pretty much at the top of my list of diving memories. Also, I've got to say the group of divers that I did it with as well. It was a real team effort. We had a great group of divers, some of which I knew already. Some it was the first time I've met them, and they become friends for life. So just the whole thing was such a fantastic event. We dived it on the 100th year anniversary of the sinking as part of an event that the government of the island of Kea had put on. So it was just dripping with historical significance. So yeah, that's probably got to be right up there. But then also, I think Truck Lagoon is just world class diving. Yeah. I did it with Aaron Arongramson, the founder of the Dirty Dozen. We did the first Dirty Dozen trip, and I always said it was a trip of a lifetime. I wanted to go out and do it, and as long as I dive truck, I'd be happy. So yeah, trip of a lifetime I did in March, and then I went back again at the end of the year because it was just so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say I talked to Aaron last week this time, and we were talking about that too. It's we were supposed to be 3 days into our truck trip right now. Yep. So that is that's sad.
Yeah, make sure you get it rescheduled because it is it is fantastic.
Yeah, we're thinking next April, so we'll see. Yeah. I got so many on the list. I want to do bikini and I want to do Scapa, and trying to figure all that out is just So
yeah, well, I'm absolutely with you there. I mean, bikini is the next on my list. That's the one on my bucket list that I haven't yet done. So
you haven't done that yet? Nice.
I'm supposed to be heading out to the bikini next year.
Wow.
So yeah, really, really looking forward to that. It's again from the historical significance, having the Saratoga and the Nagato, right there next to each other, two of the most significant ships ever.
Yeah.
The great thing about bikini is that it makes truck look fairly accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other one you mentioned, which I was going to bring up as well, in terms of bucket list diving, is Scapa Flow. And now for us in the UK, Scapa Flow is relatively easy to get to. You know, it's pretty much on our doorstep.
Yep.
But it's world-class diving. And well, it's funny you should mention those three, because the picture you selected for this event brings all of those together.
Uh-huh.
That's that picture was taken while I was doing a talk about truck, and I was also talking about how I wanted to go to Bikini.
Yeah.
And the two Vikings that invaded the stage are two of the skippers from Scapa Flow, two of the best skippers that you could possibly go with in Scapa. Hazel and Helen from Valkyrie and Valhalla are fantastic, great skippers, very knowledgeable, and Helen is a fantastic cook as well. So
nice.
They're fantastic group to go with.
That's the one that you'd mentioned to me. I've been looking at them. I just haven't. I was trying to get the truck trip off of it and done so that I could start planning all these, and just hasn't happened yet. So I'm gonna post their link up here so that everybody else can find it. And it's always finding them is a little bit of a challenge for me. So I'm gonna post that right there. Beautiful. Warren Miller says hello, by the way. Warren's on here. So good old Warren.
Hey. And that sort of brings me round full circle. You know, what's my favorite destination? The UK. If I had to pick one country that I could only dive in one country for the rest of my life, it would be the UK. We've got absolutely fantastic wreck diving around the UK. Everybody knows about Scapa Flow, but we've got all the wrecks around the south coast. In the English Channel, there's liners, there's warships, there's destroyers, there's submarines, there's fantastic cargo ships. We've got the legacy of the First and Second World War wrecks and the blockade by the German U-boats. So there are literally thousands of wrecks around the UK. We've got Malin Head off the northwest coast of Ireland, with some of the best wrecks in the world. And also, you know, I know you guys have a U-boat off the east coast of the US. Well, we've got them all around the UK. At the end of the First World War, there was an operation called Operation Deadlight, and we had all of the German submarines, and there were so many, we didn't know what to do with them. So we just took them out and sank them off the Malin Head. So there are literally just sitting there, all these different U-boats, different classes. So if you're a wreck enthusiast, the UK is one of the best places in the world to dive.
Nice. So what's the accessibility like? How does that? Are there readily accessible charters? Or are they? I mean, I guess it's a well-kept secret at this point in time. Not many people talk about it being a location, but you know, the World War I and II history produced a whole lot of wrecks, and that's what a lot of people are going after. And they're really great wrecks to dive. So it seems like it would be a hot spot, anyways. But what's the accessibility like? Is there any issues there? Or?
No, there's some, as you say, hotspots is probably the right word for it. There's a couple of key locations around the UK that are really our hotspots for diving. Weymouth and Portland is where I've done most of my diving out of the UK. So on the south coast, pretty much smack in the middle, there are a whole range of dive boats operating out of Weymouth and Portland, similar to diving. Skin Deep, just two of the ones that I've used the most, and fantastic for wreck diving. But there's a whole range of others as well all around that area. And it's great because we've got the dive boats, we've got the dive centers. Underwater Explorers is one of the ones I use a lot down there. Fantastic guys that have got all the equipment and also compressors, nitrox, trimix, everything on tap. and also accommodation, and it's very accessible. In fact, Portland Harbour is one of the largest man-made harbours in the world, and there are even wrecks inside the harbour. It's big enough that there are wrecks inside the harbour. So if the weather's so bad that you can't even get outside the harbour, you can still dive. So from a training point of view, it's fantastic. I've done a number of training courses, hundreds of training courses, and done skills dives inside the harbour. And then you go slightly further offshore, and you've got some fantastic wrecks. There's the Salset, which was a P&O liner, and was voted the best wreck in the UK a number of years ago. Almost intact, lying on its side, just a fantastic wreck. But then also there's a lot of more interesting and unique wrecks as well. There's a wreck called the M2, which lies just off Portland. The M2 was a submarine. Originally, there was the M1, M2, and M3, and they were designed with a 15-inch gun on the submarine. So it looked absolutely unbelievable, this huge, great gun on a submarine. But then after the Washington Naval Treaty of 1927, 26, 27, guns that size on submarines were outlawed. So they decided to change it. The M1 had already sunk at that point. So that's also diveable, and has got the gun, still had the gun in place. But the M2 was converted, and they decided, okay, if you're gonna take the gun off it, what else can we put on that's even more ridiculous? So they decided to put an aircraft carrier on the front of the submarine. So there's an aircraft hangar, and there was a short launch and a recovery winch, and they would launch a seaplane off the front of this submarine. And that sank off the coast of Portland. So the other hub along the south coast for diving is Portsmouth. Plymouth. And the M1 sank off the coast of Plymouth. So we've got one of the other ships from the submarines from the same family sank off the other main diving center. So Plymouth is the other sort of main focus of along the south coast. And again, great dive centers. In Deep Dive Center down there are a great center, Aquanauts, and there's a number of others with all the facilities and dive boats as well.
Nice. And so the depths of the wrecks are pretty much shallow recreational to deeper technical, right? There's a range of all of them, or?
Yeah, lots of shallow recreational wrecks. The English Channel in the middle, from accessible from Weymouth and Portland, 60 to 65 meters is the maximum. So that was 100 foot. So fantastic trimix range. Then as you go further west, as you get further out of Plymouth and out to the Channel Islands, it gets much deeper. So then you can get up to 100, and in some areas even beyond that. So there's a complete range from 10 foot to 300 foot.
Nice, that's great. So are people taking? Is it easily accessible? I don't want to use accessible again, but easily accessible for like a trip planning. How does that work? Are there places to stay, hotels? Is it resort? I mean, it's not really resorts, right? But there are the dive shops, I guess, affiliated with places to stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's a common thing. You go away for a weekend or a week's diving. You need the boat, you need the gas fills, you need somewhere to eat, somewhere to go for a drink in the evening, and somewhere to stay. So most of the dive centers have got links with hotels, guest houses, or even hostels if you're on a budget, that can put up divers. There are some that even do special deals for divers. near where I am, there's a fantastic pub called the Huntsman, which does proper diver-sized food. If you've been diving all day and you need a good meal in the evening, they do fantastic food, and they're very welcoming of divers as well.
The Huntsman,
so, yeah, yep. Fantastic.
Huntsmanpub.co.uk, I assume, is their website. Let's take a look at this.
That's
I'll
probably
throw that
one.
up there.
Yep, Phil is the landlord there. And before I moved down to this area, I used to virtually live there.
I like it. Very nice. That's a very interesting opportunity that we might want to take advantage of. It. We're looking for some cool, interesting things. So I think that would fit a lot of it. We get stuck into the a lot of interesting stories, the technical diving stories, but we cater to recreational just as much, if not more. And it's tough because a lot of the stories become technical, but that gives us an opportunity to give something for recreational and technical, which is where we're trying to hang out and look at. So come back around to another technical story, and then I want to talk training a little bit. Britannic, how did you get an opportunity to do the Britannic? How'd that whole thing go down?
It was, as is the case with a lot of technical trips, it was a friend of a friend. I'd always wanted to do the Britannic. It was, Kevin Gurr's session really sort of got my interest up. And that was just at the point where, I was starting to get into technical diving. And I thought, yeah, I want to do that. And I'd mentioned to enough people that I was really interested. I talked to lots of people who dived it before. And so when an expedition was being put on, I got a message from a friend of mine said, this is going on. It's by invite only, and would you be interested? Mm-hmm. And I bit the hand off. Yep, absolutely. I'm definitely interested in that. Wow. The Britannic has got an amazing history. Not just from the ship itself, but the discovery of the wreck. It was rediscovered by Cousteau. Wherever you go with diving, Cousteau has always been there before you. Whether it's a truck, HMS Hermes, or the Britannic, Cousteau has been there. But it was very, very difficult to get permission to dive the Britannic from about 2009 up until 2016. Very difficult to get permission. And I found out that this expedition was together. It was tied up with the 100th year centenary. And so I thought, well, if we're going to do it, if they're ever going to give people permission to dive it, that's the time to do it. Mm-hmm. So I dived with a couple of people that were on the trip. And I said, yeah, I'm up for it. There were some conditions. You had to be obviously qualified to dive to that depth, and importantly, dived up on that depth. I think the criteria was you had to have dived to that sort of depth within the last 12 have all the insurance in place. I said I was interested. The deal was you put your deposit down, and then if we do it, fantastic. If it works out that we can't do it, then you lose your deposit, mm-hmm. which I was more than happy with.
Yeah, it's fine risk, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Warren asked, what's the best time of year to go? I'm assuming Warren is asking about the UK, even though he refuses to travel with me for more than one thing. So what's the best time of year to go to the UK for everyone but Warren?
Well, the thing about diving in the UK is that it is unpredictable. So there are times when, it's probably not a good idea. January, February, probably not a good idea to be diving in the UK. Now, actually, we get some fantastic conditions. If it is calm, then it can be fantastic, but unpredictable. Summertime and actually late summer is one of the best times to go. May, June time, a little bit early, and sometimes you get some bad weather, and also we get quite a lot of plankton bloom early in the year. Mm-hmm. So a little bit later, July, August, even September, sometime can be the best time. The water temperature is warmed up. You get generally longer spells of good weather. So yeah, if you're going to come all the way from the States or other places from around the world, July, August, September is probably the best time. Saying that, it's one of the big advantages of Scapa. It's actually a bigger weather window for Scapa because it's a natural harbour. The whole reason why the German fleet was there was previously the home base of the Grand Fleet, because it's such a good natural harbour. So it's much more protected from the wind. So pretty much any time from March through to end of October even, Scapa is diveable.
Right.
So yeah, there's still time, assuming that things get back to normal within the next couple of months. There's still time to be looking at Scapa for the end of this year.
Yeah, that's one that I'm really interested in, just trying to work out all the logistics and everything and find other people to go with, right? So that's always that are qualified and ready and willing, and they've heard that before, but they don't really know where it is.
Yeah.
And
well, when if you're trying to convince them, all you've got to tell them, the whole of or most of the German fleet was scuttled in Scapa Flow, and even though some of it was salvaged, there are still 3 battleships laying side by side almost, 4 destroyers, plus a whole range of other ships there as well. Plus the history of Scapa itself, the area, the islands. There's prehistoric settlements there from thousands of years ago, all the way up. There's through the obviously the First and Second World War activities. So yeah, there's 3,000, nearly 4,000 years worth of history just available in Orkney.
Yeah, that is amazing. I'm very, very interested in checking that out and finding some people and to head up there and check out those wrecks. So I'm hoping to rope you and Aaron in to come with me. So we'll see what ends up happening. Hear that, Aaron?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll have to tag him. Here we go. He's probably asleep or working on something. Oh, it's not going to do it because I'm on the page. So
I'm definitely up for that. Like I said, it's relatively accessible.
Right.
So yeah, if you get half a boat together, and I'll find some UK divers to come up.
That works.
Or European divers to come up with you.
That works. I like it. All right, so on to training. And we were going to talk about this anyways, but you kind of started a Facebook group too recently, right? And been talking a little bit more about training and philosophies, and you did that at DEMA. So I think there's probably a good amount to talk about. So where should we start? General philosophy on training open water students from the start. I feel you're probably as opinionated as Nick and Alex are, who I talked to the other day. So how do you train open water students from the start?
The way I open water students is I look at there's a phrase I use a lot when I'm teaching and when I'm specifically teaching instructors is teach divers, not skills, and that sort of wraps up the whole philosophy. I want to produce someone who can go diving. My background is I'm exclusively commercial instructor these days. My background was from volunteer side. So in the UK, we have this club system where people effectively join a club, teach for fun. They don't get paid; they do it for fun. So, in order to bring people into a club, to go diving with. So my philosophy, it wasn't something that was a deep intellectual thing. The philosophy when we were teaching divers is, well, we want to go diving with these guys as soon as they are trained. So the whole approach was, I tell them the things that they need to know in order to go diving in the environment that we are diving. So the end result was always to create a safe diver. Rather than this checklist mentality of I've got to teach this skill, I've got to teach this skill. Because that, I think, it leads people down the wrong path. If you have to skills, if you have to do a tick list of skills, you focus on teaching the individual skill rather than taking a back and looking at, is this person as a safe diver? And I think that even though now I teach purely in the commercial environment, I think that's still reflected completely in the SDI ethos. You know, the loved ones clause, which we all always come back to. You know, would you let this person dive with one of your loved ones? Well, in that case, I'm not looking at the individual skills. I'm looking at, is this person a safe diver? So that my philosophy has always been, how do we create safe divers? And so a big part of that is having someone who can just go for a dive. And so that naturally leads on to focusing on what people are really going to need when they go diving. What are they really going to need? Well, then they're going to need to be able to go down in the UK, stay off the bottom because it might be quite silty, swim around, and then come back up in a controlled manner. Quite often, if we're diving in the UK, there's currents, so we might send up an SMB. So, yeah, being able to go down, hover off the bottom and not be dragging along the bottom, not kicking up the bottom, and then do a safe ascent at the end of the dive. That's the bread and butter of diving. It's a bit like when you learn to drive. You know, you learn to drive, you learn the basics first, and then you start to add on the other stuff, the emergency stop, the 3-point turn, the little set piece skills. And so that's how I've always taught people to dive. And it turns out now that apparently is becoming quite fashionable, and that's all of a sudden the new way of doing it. Well, yeah, it's not a new way of doing it. That's how a lot of teaching people to dive for years. So what that means is that I'm not worried on the very first dive, about doing skill A, B, or C. I'm not worried about, do they do a regulator recovery on the first confined water session? Let's get them in the water. Let's get them comfortable. Let's get them swimming around. Let's let them enjoy it and bring them into diving. And then once they're comfortable, then you can start to add on the more difficult skills. When they're comfortable, they'll find it a little bit easier to deal with some of the more difficult skills. But you whack someone with one of the most difficult skills straight off, immediately you take them in the water, and yeah, of course they're going to struggle. They're going to find it difficult. They may even decide that it's not for them. So I think a lot of this is just common sense. I think you referenced the diving educators group that started recently, and there's a great post on there from an instructor that says, the reason that we're struggling with this, the reason why some instructors are resisting this emphasis on good buoyancy and teaching people with the end in mind rather than just focusing on skills, is because that's what they were taught, and they're struggling to see past that. It's is a concept that we stress in the SDI instructor course. People tend to fall back to what they learned first of all. So teach them the right thing first of all, and then when they fall back on the right thing, fantastic. That's what we want. Teach them the wrong thing first of all, and if they fall back on that, then they're making the situation worse.
Yeah, and so I have a very similar philosophy on that, where I try to lead the student to a correct answer, but they've developed it on their own. So since they've developed it, when I'm long and gone and they're doing their own thing, it allows them to critically think. So if there is an industry turn, or we have some sort of research, or we see something that maybe it can be done better from, I taught it 5 years ago one way, as opposed to them being like, my instructor said to do this. Well, okay, think for yourself. I told them, there's nothing that gets me more heated than saying I'm doing it because you told me to. That is not an answer.
Yeah.
That is a cop out, or when they come to me and I go, why are you doing that? Because my instructor told me so. Well, then we need to retrain you on everything because you're not thinking. And it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
I think that's such an important point, because it may well be that what the instructor taught them is right when they taught it.
Right.
So, one of the examples I use when we're talking about this is buddy breathing. I was taught buddy breathing. I did my initial training, and that was absolutely the right thing, because at that point, most regulators had a single second stage. If you had to share air, buddy breathing was the only option.
Right.
And so we taught buddy breathing. And a lot of instructors thought, yeah, buddy breathing is great, builds confidence. So even when a second regulator, octopus, or whatever you want to call the alternative, came into, instructors still wanted to teach buddy breathing because it's a good skill, because how I learned. But then what we got is that students did what they were taught. So if they got into trouble and they ran out of air, then they instantly switched into buddy breathing, because that was the muscle memory, that was the training that they'd received. And so we're training them to do the wrong thing. It used to be the right thing, but it's no longer the right thing. And equipment evolves. Again, I learned to dive just at the point where stab jackets were starting to come in. BCD, standard BCDs now. But at the time, there were still divers that weren't using any buoyancy device. There were divers that were using the old horse collar jackets. And if we'd used the argument that, well, this is standard kit, we can't use anything other than the standard kit, then BCDs would never have come in. But now BCDs are much more popular. But as new kit evolves, side mount, backplates, wings, of course, side mount backplates and wings aren't actually new. They've been around for a long time. But as they become more popular, why not incorporate those into the training? The training should be oriented around teaching people to use the kit, not forcing them to learn things because that's the kit that we used to use, or we used when we became instructors.
Yeah.
So I think the industry has to move on. It has always moved on, and yet there seem to be some people now want to fix things and say, right, now we've reached perfection. That's it. We're not going to change anything else. We're not going to carry on evolving.
Yeah, we've evolved so much in not so much time. For when you start considering, the dive industry itself is fairly infantile overall, and from an age standpoint and other standpoints. So it's I was on a dive boat 15 years ago, and the captain, the skipper came out, and it's a rope. It's an 8 of rope, and it's got a little loop and a big loop. And he's like, you know what this is? I'm like, new diver. I'm like, I got no clue what that is. What is it? He goes, it's my first BCD. He goes, you put the loop around the valve and you put the rope around yourself. He goes, I was skinnier then, but this used to fit me, and I'd just jump in with the tank wrapped around me. I was like, okay, things are a little bit different. So
yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that was extremely intriguing from the that you gave a presentation on, that I was very happy to see, and we utilize way more now in the foundations course that we're teaching. Video with training. I've asked this for a couple of people. How do you use video with training? What's the pros and cons to it? Just give us a little, your opinion on that.
So again, this is a perfect example of how things have evolved. You go back 15 years, 10 years, even 5 years, and when you talked about an underwater video camera, it was the size of a small car. And you needed 2 hands to push this thing around, and there was absolutely no way you could use that video and do anything else. Your focus entirely was on video. Whereas now we've got cameras that are this size. We've got cameras that will fit on the side of your mask. You can turn it on and completely forget about it. So as the technology changes, the the use of that technology changes. Again, 10 years ago, you filmed something and several days later, you might actually get to see it. Whereas now, you film something, and as soon as it's Bluetoothed itself to my laptop or my phone, I can open up my laptop and watch the video. So technology's changed, and therefore what we do with it can change. I'm a big fan of using video during training. Divers, I've seen it so many times. I say, oh no, I didn't do that, or my trim is perfect, I'm dead flat, and then show, oh really, wow, no, I'm not flat, wow. So I've had divers absolutely flat out deny they did something or that they didn't do something, and then you show them video, and their recollection of what happened is completely different to what actually happened. And that's the only way you've got of convincing them is to just tell them flat out that they're wrong. And even then, you're not really, because they think remembered it. On the video is a very way of giving feedback.
Absolutely.
Because you're not telling them that they're out of trim. You're not telling them that they forgot to do this or that. They can see it there right in front of them. So it's, and for visual learners, it's a much, much more effective way than you trying to describe it and waving your hands around and doing all of this sort of stuff. They can see it, and they can see it immediately. So yeah, big fan of that. But there are some downsides, and again, it comes back to the reason why we in the past have sort of frowned upon using video, and that's the attention on the student. If you are videoing, you've got to make sure that your attention is still 100% on the student. So use a dive master to video is probably the easiest solution. Or I think as you guys have got set up there, you've got a fixed camera that you can.
Yeah, we have one camera on a plate and like two others on like tripods fixed. We can fix them to the docking area, and basically the student will come up. It's almost like me seeing you. You come up to the camera. I'd be behind your camera, looking at you as the instructor. The camera's below me, and we're the buddy team. They're showing me their skills, but they're doing it in the camera. So I got somebody that was like, oh, yeah, I lost my buoyancy by like maybe a foot or two. And I was like, all right, watch. And they're like, wait, where'd I go? I'm like, not quite sure, but the wide angle camera still doesn't have you. I think it might be more than a foot. And they're like, yeah, probably is. Mm-hmm, yeah. So it's good feedback. And we can allow a buddy system with the camera on a plate or on a tripod. And we put it kind of underneath the instructor's hovering over it on the platform, and the student's off in kind of the open water, but it's still the same orientation, just as a camera below us. So, which is a very interesting one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great approach. I think if you've got a fixed training spot, a training platform, or mounted. I know some instructors have a camera mounted on the Goodman handle of their torch. They may not have the torch on, but they're still using. They've got it there anyway, or mask mounted or mounted on the top of your head, so that there's no input required from the instructor.
Yep. Yeah, that's the key, right? Is to make sure it's completely hands off, because you want to make sure that it's not distracting you in any way, shape, or form. It's it's got to be a passive tool. So that's what we found is there's a temptation to continue to adjust the camera. Do I have them? That's not the most important part. It's just an extra tool that you should perfect over time, not while you're trying to do the dives. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Too many people try to do feedback underwater and see the camera. It is set it, forget it, review it later on.
Yeah, exactly. And then delete it. That's the other thing. This is not publicity pictures. This is not stuff that you're gonna post. So don't worry about how well it's framed. Don't worry about the lighting. As long as the student can see what they need, then that's fine. And then delete it. And I always tell my students that I'm going to delete the film at the end of the course. They're welcome to keep a copy of their bits, but I'm going to delete it. It's not going to go on YouTube. It's not going to go on Facebook, because it's there as a teaching tool, not publicity, not for PR. If they want to do a dive after the course and get some pretty pictures, and we'll get some pictures of them in trim, looking cool, the hero shots. Yeah, great, we can do all of that, but that's not the goal of the video while we're teaching.
Right, and we see that. Like, so I've seen multiple instructors out there that their class video is clearly not about teaching the students. It's about trying to get some publicity. Look at how well my students' tanks are trimmed. Well, like, yeah, you probably used it. You might have used it for your students, but it's pretty clear that you are just trying to get publicity on your tank trimming. And then they retort with, show your pictures of your students. And it's like, listen, it's not what it's there for. They're learning how to do things. I don't need you to critique my students. We're trying to develop them, and they don't need to be ridiculed. We've already gone through that whole thing and discussed it.
Yeah.
So I like the leading thing.
I wouldn't want to show the video of any of my students because they're on the course to learn. Because they can't do it. They have things that they need to learn. I've got things that they don't know. They've got things that they will be getting wrong. And my job is to correct all those so that at the end they've got it right. So during the course, they're still work in progress. So yeah, of course, someone's going to look at it and go, "Oh, look at this guy. He's doing this wrong. He's doing that wrong." Yeah, of course. That's why he's doing course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if he came in perfect, what would be the point? Yeah, that's. It frustrates me watching people do that, and then it's like, oh, okay, and it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, the cool stuff, the publicity stuff afterwards, fantastic, and we want publicity, but it's different. It's a different objective than the training video.
Yeah, I'll have to find the video and post it. We did keep one snippet. We were trying to video somebody doing. I think he was doing helicopter turns. We were trying to videotape someone doing helicopter turns, and you're watching the camera, and suddenly this fish just comes up and just sits in the middle and then goes back down, and we missed the entire skill because a fish decided he needed to put his eye in the camera. So it was quite comical. We were sitting down having beers watching it. We're like, oh, that looks pretty. Oh, there's fish. Okay. They get involved every once in a while. So you get some pretty interesting video going on.
I said I delete the video. I do have one clip that I use. I used it in that talk.
Yep.
That I kept because it was such a good example of some of the unexpected stuff that comes up on a course. So there I specifically asked permission to keep it, and the students were more than happy to use that as a teaching tool.
Was that ever posted on YouTube? Was that video?
No, that wasn't.
No, your presentation.
The talk.
Yeah.
No. Unfortunately, the quality of the audio wasn't really good enough. We're looking at redoing that and basically getting that same material out there.
Gotcha.
The audio wasn't quite as good as we hoped, so couldn't really put it out.
Nice. What was the other presentation you gave? Oh, teaching neutrally buoyant, right? That was the other presentation you gave there. Yeah. So we are on the same page there. So we teach neutrally buoyant from day one. I've talked about multiple of these interviews at this point, and it's there's lots of pros and cons, and you kind of hit on it before, which is good. So you are currently teaching all the way through recreational through technical, or are you focusing on technical stuff? Time split up and instructor training and all that.
So I'm pretty lucky in that I can spread my time across all. I'm probably best known for technical teaching, so a lot of what I do is technical teaching. But with the work I do as an IT and for HQ, I get involved in a lot of recreational teaching as well. I think it's important that instructors teach recreational courses, at least one recreational course every year. Especially as an IT. If you're teaching people how to teach, you better be doing it as well. And as an instructor trainer evaluator, if I'm teaching people to be ITs, I don't want anyone to ever say, well, it's not the same as when you were teaching. I teach. I still teach. I don't teach as much open water stuff as I used to, obviously. But I've taught an open water class in the last couple of months. In fact, I've currently got a student going through their SDI advanced program at the moment. So we're We're going to be doing some online nitrox sessions in the next couple of days, and then a deep and a navigation course. I still enjoy teaching open water.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one chance you get to take someone in the water for the first time, and that is it's a priceless opportunity. I love seeing people when they come out of the water for the first time. That look on their face, that smile. You can always tell when someone's really hooked as a diver.
Yeah.
By the time they get to technical stuff, sometimes they're a little bit jaded. They're a bit cocky. Maybe they've seen it, they've done it. You don't get that same oh wow feeling as you do at open water.
Yeah.
I still teach primarily technical, but also recreational, and then instructor as well. I love teaching instructors. We've touched on a little bit of my teaching philosophy, and as an instructor, you can have an impact on the divers that you teach. You can have a fantastic impact in making them safe, making them enjoy the sport, and bringing in active divers. But then, as an IT, I can have an even bigger reach because all the instructors I teach can have an impact. So it's that extra level of reach that you can have. You can have a much bigger impact as an IT than you can as an instructor.
Mm-hmm.
So I love teaching instructors. It's a lot of people underestimate how big a jump it is from being an instructor to an instructor trainer. Teaching people how to teach is a skill in itself, and I get a real buzz out of teaching people how to teach. I love seeing the students of my instructor candidate. I love seeing someone that is a great diver because of an instructor that I've taught. You can be sitting at home with a cup of tea, and there is someone out there creating divers, good, safe divers, which is a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. And I totally the teaching recreational, even though you're teaching tactical and becoming an instructor trainer and all that, absolutely 100%. I mean, there is nothing better than taking somebody in the water for the first time. One of the things I've seen as being a big issue, especially with doing instructor training, is you get some of the tech divers you get in that want to suddenly become instructors, and now they want to talk tech to every single open water student. Like, you need to slow down, let them enjoy, let them realize where they're at in their training and enjoy the first ones. And it's, don't poo-poo on their first experience ever because they're not a tech diver yet. Like, talk about all the fish and things in 30 feet of water, and when they're ready, or if they ask you a question, then okay, yeah. We have some students that are adamant. They're like, I'm going to back kick. Like, well, yeah, I mean, we're going to show you how to do that in open water, but we don't really require you to do it perfectly. Like, no, I'm going to. Like, okay, all right, fair enough. But yeah, do you see a fair amount of that whole? Realistic. Yeah. Do you see a fair amount of the whole? I'm a tech diver. I don't respect or I misled in the how I'm teaching recreational side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I'm a tech diver and I want to be a tech instructor, and I want to skip the whole teaching recreational stuff is a very, very common situation. Yeah. Teaching recreational is where you learn. That's where you learn how to be an instructor. That's where you learn what a student looks like when they're feeling uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And all of that is priceless. You need to have all of that under your belt before you then start trying to teach someone technical diving and being able to teach them with a decompression obligation.
Yep.
You've definitely got to go through the basics. And also, I think it's a very, very good way of being able to teach to the right level. Something I think is a lot of instructors make the mistake that they think the more you put in, the better it's going to be. The more information I give, the better instructor I am. Well, more is not always better. Mm-hmm. It's got to be the right information. So an example I use is, I ask instructor candidates, how long should a decompression sickness lecture be? And it depends on the audience. If I'm teaching open water, that's about 5 minutes. If I'm teaching deco procedures, it's a couple of hours. I also do a half-day decompression workshop, and I also do a 2-day decompression theory course, and each covers decompression. And at the end of it, each student thinks, oh yeah, I know what I need to know now. And I've covered everything they need to know, but different levels, different level of knowledge.
When I do my course director training, we always talk about this, and like, why did you assign what topics and times? I'm like, I always give decompression theory or something along that complicatedness 5 minutes. You got to give me a presentation in 5 minutes, and then it's like snorkels 15, go. And they're like, why is that? Because I need to see that you can either give more than enough information, like really cover every single piece, because you can talk for however long you need to about whatever you want to. Jesse would be happy that I said snorkel because he's mad at me about that or something. But then Deco, like, you need to be able to give it to me in like 5 minutes. Like, give me a general rundown, because that might be what the audience needs. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do exactly the same. Giving the deco theory to the techie diver and making them explain it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and messes with their head. Fantastic.
Yeah. How do I do it? I can't do it. Yeah, you can. Just make it happen. Like, just look at your audience and figure it out. So, yeah, that's always fun.
How did that recreational instructor explain to you when you were learning open water? See, that's recreational instructors are smarter than you think.
Yep, most of them are. Yeah. So, we are encroaching on our 1 hour together, and I've got to be on Gareth Locke's 10-week instructor program, or instructor 10-week webinar class that he is running. So just one or two more questions for you. How are you doing with all this stuff? How are things in Mark's life? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm very lucky. I live in a beautiful part of the world, and I'm over your head now. I'm looking out of my window and I can see a cherry tree that's just about coming into blossom, and the Forest of Dean, and it's sunny. There's hardly any clouds in the sky. So if you're going to be locked in somewhere, then I'm in a pretty good place to be. And also, I'll tell you a secret. At the start of this year, the travel was manic. So spending a couple of weeks at home at the moment is not a hardship at all. Another couple of months and maybe I'll be ready to get on that plane again. But yeah, I'm healthy. My wife's healthy. All the family's healthy.
Good.
And that's the most important thing you can say at the moment.
It absolutely is. Are you going to be able to get any diving in, even, I don't know if you solo dive or extended or anything like that, or you're just taking the time off?
We're pretty much in lockdown in the UK, so you can't go anywhere. So yeah, diving's pretty much off the board for the foreseeable future. So yeah, that's why taking the chance to catch up on our diving projects and do all the things I thought, I'll do that when I've got some time. No excuses now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That to-do list starts getting long. When you get back, what's the first dive you think you're going to do?
Unfortunately, there's a local dive site that I use for training in Chepstow, National Diving and Activity Centre, which is a fantastic spot for training. It's got everything that you need from 6 meters to 70 meters. So yeah, probably that would be my first dive. First fun dive, well, we've got a couple of good, easy shore dives, only a couple of hours from here. So, north coast of Devon, down towards Plymouth, something like that. Or it may well be heading out. I'm going to be spending some time in Italy. We've got some guys in Poland that I was supposed to be doing some work with, or Spain, maybe. So, yeah. Nice. Who knows? But I don't care where it is. It's going to be great wherever I do my next dive.
That works. All right, I'm going to work on the wife and see if I can convince her to come out to the UK. She doesn't dive, but I'm sure she'd enjoy it. So maybe we'll come out and visit, or Scotland and do Scapa or something like that. So
there's plenty of history, even if you're not a diver. So I'm sure we'll find plenty to keep her occupied.
That works. And one last thing before I let you go, send me those videos so I can make you a foundations instructor, man. We got to get that done.
Yeah,
you got time now.
I will do that. Yeah, well, I've got to get in the water for that.
Oh, come on, you got to have something.
Maybe if I edit together all the previous
there you
videos I've got,
it'll work out.
Definitely do that.
Yeah, I'd love that. So, all right, Mark. Well, thank you very much. I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, man. Talk to you.
You take care.
All right, take care. Bye.